Hello and welcome back to MacStories Unwind. I'm John Voorhees and I have Federico Vitici back with me, fresh from the beach. How you doing, Federico?
Hello, John. Thank you.
Yeah, we took a week off, and even though I didn't go to the beach last week, it was a nice little break that I got to Friday, and I still had plenty to do, but I didn't have either a newsletter or a podcast to produce, so it was a much calmer, more sane week for me than normal.
Do you have any plans for the rest of the summer?
I do. We've been trying to get away to the beach or to the mountains for 2 or 3 days for a while now. And first my wife got sick, but she's better now. So that kind of put a damper on it for a week. And there's been a lot of rain here. It's been very, very hot and very, very rainy. And the last thing we want to do is go to the beach and sit in a hotel room. So we are either going to go to the beach. We might go to Charleston, South Carolina, which we've been to Charleston a couple of times. I really like Charleston because it's a very old, historic southern city on the coast that has a lot of character, a lot of great places to eat. Beaches is nearby. And so we may go there. We also may just go up to the mountains if it just ends up being too hot at the beach. We've had a very, very hot summer, and so that's a possibility. But I think we need to go to the beach. It's been too long since we've been to the beach, so we'll probably end up in North Carolina Beach or else in Charleston.
How far is it for you?
So it's about 3.5 hours, and now is really a good time to go because the schools are about to get back in session here. Like in a week, all the kids in this area.
Really? In a week?
Yeah, they start really early here. Like in a week to 2 weeks, most of the kids in this area will be back in school, which means that there won't be families at the beach, which means the hotels will be available. So we haven't really booked anything in advance. We're just kind of waiting for a week where the weather looks good and we can go, maybe we'll probably go midweek or something like that and spend a few days. But yeah, it's about 3.5 hours to drive to the closest part of the beach. Charleston's probably more like maybe 4.5 or something like that. But it's not too bad. The mountains are closer, but the beach is where I think we will end up going this year.
I wanted to mention something quickly before we talk about our picks.
Yeah.
Something that we've been talking about privately on iMessage. This modern trend of video game ports to platforms they were not meant to be running on, and sort of like
it's incredible.
The AI vibe coding of it all.
Yeah, it's a good topic.
So this picked up over the past few months, really since January when everybody discovered Cloud Code over the Christmas break, and then with Codex and with these coding agents that can work for days uninterrupted. But if you've been on Reddit or YouTube or X over the past few months, you must have seen these ports of usually like older games, right? For I don't know, Super Nintendo GBA or Nintendo 64 or GameCube or PS1 or PS2 running natively, right? Natively on, say, an iPhone or an iPad or a modern Android handheld. And these are usually presented as decomps or recomps, so decompilations or recompilations of a game. Now, this is something that has existed for decades in the video game homebrew community.
Yes, it's just that it's been the kind of process that has taken years. Like I think one of these, we talked about one of these on NPC. I don't remember which one it was, like maybe a year ago. And it was a project that was in the works for like over 5 years to do. You remember that one?
Yeah. It used to be that it would take usually like a single person.
Yeah.
Or a team of people. They would have to decompile the source engine of a game, like manually line by line, and get to the source code of a game.
Yes,
right?
and so then they're taking that source code. They're taking essentially the ones and zeros or whatever it is, and they're recompiling that using modern languages. So they're recreating the game from the machine code that runs on a console, which is not generally human readable, but people would pick through to find patterns and see how they could then recompile it from that. Which, I mean, that's my kind of layman's understanding of how it works.
Right. And the thing that is appending this entire community to the point where there's now, you sent me, or I sent you an article from who was it? From basically this article that explained how in the homebrew community there's now a bit of drama as to whether some of the OGs, some of those or like developers from the previous era are saying no, we don't accept any AI made contributions because they're used to painstakingly decompile and recompile these games by hand with a lot of care and a lot of thought that goes into the process. Whereas some of these modern projects, usually done by people who point codecs or cloud code with Fable to a game and say, here's this game, here's a bunch of open source libraries that you can use, make it run on an iPad now.
Right.
But some of these ports are kind of sloppy, right? Because they have bugs, because they're made by AI, because they're not made by somebody who has years and years of experience doing this very niche, this very particular thing. But on the other hand, some of those games just work. Like it's pretty remarkable.
And once people get excited about a project, it tends to attract people who actually know what they're doing, and it gets refined fairly quickly. Like the one that I'm thinking about that's probably gotten some of the most press in the last few weeks is the Pokemon Red and Blue,
God.
right?
Yeah. Gen 1 Recomp. Yeah.
It's the Gen 1 Recomp, which wasn't brand new, but people have taken it and they've applied these voxel models to it so that instead of just being a top-down two-dimensional game, now it's three-dimensional. And
like a 2D, HD 2D type of thing.
Right, the Square Enix type of thing, and Octopath Traveler and all that. And what you can do is you can even specify what the angle is, 35 degrees, 45 degrees.
First person.
First person. And see, that's the thing is like...
And it looks absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy.
And I think that when I first downloaded it, and between the time I first downloaded it and like 6 days later when we talked about it on NPC,
there's been like 20 different updates.
There had been like 20 updates, right? And probably since I last updated it, which was last week sometime, there have been another 20 because it's gone from, okay, now it has these voxel models, now it has first person mode.
Now you can put 3D Pokemon characters from Pokemon Stadium of the Nintendo 64 into the Gen 1 game for the Game Boy.
Now the battles are taking, the battle systems have all changed. It's on Vision Pro that you can.
It's on Vision Pro. Yeah, it took on a life of its own, really. But like that is exactly a valid point. Like when some of these vibe coded projects take off, they really take off.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of this other person that we keep mentioning on our iMessage every few days or so. Their name is Caris on X.
Which just unbelievable number of projects coming out.
Unbelievable number. So this person started, I think, with I don't even know how they started.
Was it Ocarina of Time?
Ocarina of Time, maybe. So they're now specializing in doing ports of Nintendo 64, PS1, and now GameCube games to the iPhone and iPad. They created this commonly shared engine, I think. So they have ported Ocarina of Time, Mario Sunshine, Crash Bandicoot, Crash Team Racing, Banjo-Kazooie, Diddy Kong Racing, Command & Conquer. I'm just
scrolling one of the Mario
timeline.
Kart 64, maybe?
Super Smash Bros. 64, Mario Kart 64, Animal Crossing for GameCube. I mean, you name it. And they have this common foundation called something pad. So they have like this technical foundation underneath it all that recompiles these games for the ARM 64 instruction set. And they're they usually do a thread when they explain how they did it, and it's usually like codecs. over multiple days. I saw recently that they mentioned like some assistance from DeepSeek V4 Flash, which I will mention in next week's episode of App Stories. It's a good model. But yeah, I mean, and this is pretty incredible, right? So before I left for vacation, I did something. I set up 2 threads in Codex on my MacBook Pro, right? I was using the MacBook Pro. I connected via USB-C my iPhone and my AM4.
Okay.
On the iPhone, I pointed Codex. So it just so happens that all of these games that this person is now recompiling, I personally own and have personally digitized in my personal collection.
That's
I
one
have
thing
all
that's worth.
my original ROMs for these games.
It's worth mentioning that the way this works is you have to have the.
Oh,
ROM.
you need to have your original ROM.
Right.
I pointed Codex at the timeline of this person and said, I want you to find all of these projects they have on GitHub and install all of these games on my iPhone.
Nice.
Figured it out. And it took about like a couple of hours. And I'm not kidding, I'm going to show you on video. I have a home screen full of these games at the bottom. This would be Star Fox 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart 64, and I think I mentioned Star Fox. Yeah. So I'm gonna now that I'm back from vacation, I'm gonna have to install more of Super Mario Sunshine, for example, and they are totally playable, either via touch or via the MCON controller.
I was gonna say they have controller support. Yeah.
Yes, they do, and I did the same with Codex, just so that we can sort of paint a more complete picture of just the times that we are living in. I connected my AM4. This is a tip that you shared on MPC a few months ago. Enable the Android developer tool feature so that you can get USB, full-blown USB access to an Android handheld. Like
basically, you're getting root access to Android.
Yes. I connected Codex. I installed a skill that you shared with me a few months ago. And I said, I want you to fully set up my AM4 from scratch. I want you to download these ROMs from my Google Drive. I want you to install the Cocoon front end. I want you to set up Cocoon for me. I want you to install this theme. I want you to install the credentials for scraping for my Steam account. I want you to install these games from open source projects. So Gen 1 Recomp, for example, a dual screen mod for Zelda Minish Cap, a dual screen mod for Zelda A Link to the Past, like all of these things. And I want you to organize them in folders in Cocoon. And it took Codex like 3 hours. I was packing
it takes a while, especially since the storage is a little slow.
Codex was actually using Cocoon, which was incredible. I was looking at my AM4 and I could see the AM4 being operated via USB by Codex. It was wild. And and when it was done, I took the AM4 and I started playing games. It even reconciled old saves from a backup that I had in my Google Drive, unprompted. It just figured, the user has some existing saves that I found in a backup. Let me assume that Federico wants these saves on Cocoon. And so he pulled those saves from Wind Waker on the GameCube and Super Metroid and Chrono Trigger, maybe?
Oh, wow.
And he put them in Cocoon. And it even tested the games. So I could see the games opening and Codex tweaking some of the settings for resolution and upscaling. Like, what are we even doing?
Yeah, it's amazing. And what's cool about this is something that I mean, the reason I went down this path is that, like, when we're testing out devices on NPC, one of the most frustrating parts of dealing with testing Android devices is setting them up. It just takes a lot of time, and you're dealing with small screens and a lot of different projects spread across lots of GitHub pages and the Google Play Store and all sorts of different places. And using Codex to do this, or Claude for that matter, just really speeds up the process because you just give it some instructions, you plug it in, and you walk away. And you can know too, you can have it do things like I've said, oh, take this one device, look at this other device, see what the differences are, and make sure that they're all running the exact same library, because it's just me having failed to install everything one of the times that I set something up, and now I can know that I've got all the games that I want on every device. And you can give it instructions like, oh well, this one's a 2-screen device, so make sure that you get the versions of these emulators that are designed for 2 screens and set up Cocoon in 2-screen mode instead of 1-screen mode. And a lot of the emulators, their settings are really just things like JSON files. So it makes it very easy for an agent to go in and edit all that stuff for you without you can even do things like find a good website with settings that you like and say, oh, copy this person's settings from this article that they wrote on this website and install it on my device. And it just does it, which is amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, I started watching season 4 of Ted Lasso.
What did you think? I didn't like the first episode.
The first episode was kind of
felt like an advertisement for Kansas City.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but they need to establish the fact that Ted is now very sad and lonely. And all I can tell you is that it gets a lot better.
Oh, that's good.
It gets a lot better. Like first 2 seasons of Ted Lasso better.
Okay, good.
Didn't really like season 3 myself.
No, I didn't either.
Maybe it's not the same heights of season 1, but it's like getting there. And I would suggest everybody keep watching season 4 of Ted Lasso on Apple TV because it gets real good.
Good. Well, it's good to know. I mean, I need to get back to it. I mean, I started it. What I've been playing or watching especially since Jennifer was sick for a little while and was going to bed early, I've been watching Silo because I watched the first season and really liked it. And then I never watched the second season, and the third season just concluded not that long ago. So I started working my way through season 2, and season 2 was really, really good. I mean, I'm probably telling people something that they already know who've already watched it, but it was very good. And I think that my verdict is still out on season 3 because I'm not that far into it. At the very end of season 2, they introduced the idea of flashbacks to current times because Silo is set in a dystopian future, and the people are living in these underground silos, and you don't know why, and they have all these weird rules. And at the end of season 2, Juliet, who had been sent outside and had gone to another silo, comes back, and she returns. And that's kind of spoilery, but that's from season 2 a couple of years ago at this point. But season 3 picks up where it lets off, and you're dealing with the aftermath of like a revolution, a revolt, and her coming back from the other silo, and a lot of new intrigue, and you're still not sure what's going on. And at the same time, you start doing more of these flashbacks to current days that is sort of the backstory of where the silos came from. So the mystery is slowly being solved that way. And I haven't gotten too far into season 3 yet, but I've been really enjoying it. And if you haven't watched Silo, I think it's worth taking a chance on.
All right.
All right, Tichi. Well, that's it for another episode of MacStories Unwind. We will be back in another week. And until then, Federico, goodbye.
Ciao, John.